Well, welcome, brethren. This is a new teaching, and this is on the holy days. The word holiday is literally holy day. It's just been slanged to say holiday. The holiday that we're entering into now is this December 13th. It's coming up very soon. There's two of them, actually. The first one that I want to talk about is the Mass of Christ. Slang version of that is Christmas, okay, which is literally the Mass of Christ. Second holiday I want to talk about next week will be the holiday of, or the holy day of Hanukkah. So please stay with me with this. Most Christians are very, very confused about Christmas. They're very confused because when they ask questions like, when was Jesus really born? Then most pastors will tell you, or you can look it up yourself in Wikipedia or some other encyclopedia, and they'll say September. Then they go, well, why are we worshiping this on December 25th? Oh, it's tradition. Just go with it. It's tradition. And we heard this all our life. I mean, growing up. But there's a growing sensation among Christians, among certain Christians, that something's not right. There's a growing uneasiness in their spirits. And I think you're listening to this video, this teaching, because you're feeling that yourself. There's something not quite right. You don't know how to explain it. You can look at it, you can read about the history of it, you can see that, oh, well, Christmas really is pagan, isn't it? Is that what's not right? Well, what is right? What does the Lord want? Isn't it honoring the Lord to celebrate His birthday? I mean, isn't that a good thing? I mean, isn't this a good tradition? What about the Christmas spirit? Surely God honors this because of the Christmas spirit. The uneasiness in your spirit, though, still grows. And you feel it. And you wonder, should I be doing this? That's the Spirit of Christ within you. And it's calling out to you and it's saying, I'm not in this. And this doesn't honor me. That's the uneasiness you're feeling. You know something's wrong and you wonder, Lord, what is it? I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to share with you what the Lord wants you to know. I know many of you have researched and you've seen the pagan roots of Christmas. And you can go through all the history of it and see the pagan roots. And it is so widespread and convoluted. It took in the whole world. Its foundation is Babylon. Its foundation is the myth of Nimrod dying and being born again as Tammuz. Nimrod was a historical figure. He built Babel. His wife's name was Semiramis. When Nimrod died, Semiramis, history tells us, didn't want to lose her position of queen. And so she had relations with her guard, got pregnant, and had a child and called it Tammuz and claimed that Nimrod had come back and magically impregnated her. She claimed to not have been with a man, so like a virgin birth, though she wasn't a virgin. And so this child coming forth is, she named it Tammuz, and it is Nimrod that has come back. And so they celebrated it on December 22nd through the 25th because it's the winter equinox. And so they said that December 22nd, then Nimrod died, but on December 25th, he was born again of a virgin without a man. Isn't that incredible? And that's where the basis of this comes from. Now, there's a lot of twists and turns, but every culture, including Israel, practiced it. They worshipped Nimrod and Tammuz on those days. A different culture would change the names. Pretty soon it became Zeus. Then finally it became Mithras, the sun god, S-U-N, the sun god. So Mithras was, they changed it at one point from those who adhered to the Babylonian name Tammuz, they said a wild boar killed him on December 22nd. But he was raised and born again on December 25th. And then in celebration, he and his followers went and they found that boar that killed him, and they killed the boar out of revenge, and then they ate it in celebration. There you have Christmas ham. And that's where that tradition comes from. In Egypt, it was the goose that killed him. I'd like to see how that happens. There's some aggressive geese, but I've never seen one kill a man, but still. And then so they went hunting the goose afterwards and then shot the goose, and then they had Christmas goose. That's where all of these things come from. It is idol worship. Because in Jeremiah chapter 10, the Lord, through Jeremiah, condemns Israel for practicing that same abomination. In celebration, they would go and they would cut down an evergreen tree. In that day, Israel had a lot of forests. They would drag it home and they would nail it to the floor. Read Jeremiah 10. And then they would put presents under it. The presents to each other were called the sacrifice to the god. The reason an evergreen tree is it's a male phallic symbol, and it's evergreen, which means it doesn't die. Okay? It has life in it. It's a fertility symbol. Now in Europe, on December 22nd, they would cut down a tree, and or they would already have it cut, and they would take a sacred log they called the Yule log. You ever hear of the Yule log? That is Nimrod that was killed by the wild boar. That's what it symbolized. So they put the Yule log on, and they would worship between December 22nd and then the 25th, and then they'd nail that tree to the floor and worship that, look, he's come back. He's a living tree again. And so it was all fertility worship. Isn't that amazing? And as part of that fertility worship, Nimrod's mother was worshipped with the wreath, which was a female fertility symbol, usually with holly in it, the red berries representing the blood. And so you have the male symbol and the female symbol. Think about that next time you nail something up on your door or you put a Christmas tree up. These are actually fertility symbols. That's why you've been feeling the Spirit of the Lord talking to you in your spirit. These things don't honor Christ. These things are abominations. I've had many Christians tell me, well, but brother, we worship Jesus in it. Well, really, then let's see you draw a pentagram and light a whole bunch of black candles and stand in the center of it and worship Jesus in it. You willing to do that? That's another demonic symbol of idolatry. And it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. What does the Word of God say? What did Jesus say? Jesus said, follow my commandments, and my commandments are the commandments of the Father. What are the commandments of the Father? And these haven't changed. Leviticus 20:23, for your notes, you shall not follow the customs of the nations. Leviticus 18:30, do not practice any of the abominable customs. Do not defile yourselves. Deuteronomy 8:11-20, do not serve other gods and worship them. 2 Kings 17:15-17, the Lord has commanded them not to do like them, like the world. Psalms 106:34-37, brethren. They mingled with the nations. They learned their practices. They sacrificed their children to demons. And that's where it goes. To demons. Understand, when you put those presents under that fertility symbol, that then becomes a idol. That's a sacrifice to the idol. You sacrifice your money to buy a present, and then you give honor to the idol by placing it under the tree. Did you know that until something like 1856, Christmas wasn't even allowed in America? Because all the churches were were still hot for God, and they knew what it was. But the merchants and the Catholics demanded it. And so it was allowed. It wasn't even allowed. They knew how much of an abomination it was. Jeremiah chapter 7, 18 through 20, they made cakes for the Queen of Heaven, poured out libations to other gods. Jeremiah chapter 10, starting at verse 2, thus saith the Lord, do not learn the way of the nations. Jeremiah 10, 2 through 4 describes the Christmas tree and the decoration in pagan worship. It says a man goes out, he cuts down an evergreen tree. He drags it home. He nails it up to the floor so it's standing upright like it's alive. Well, it is still alive, but nails it upright. And then they put their presents under it, all in worship to their God. These were Jews, and God judged them for it. They still worshiped Yahweh. They just mixed the worship of the two. Isn't that amazing? So they said it's okay to do this for Tammuz. The women were weeping for Tammuz, the death of Tammuz on the 22nd. That was their tradition. And then they had Christmas, the Mass of Christ. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that amazing? Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 32, do not act like the tribes of the lands, serving wood and stone. You know, Christians today, if you say, don't set up any pagan idols. Oh, we don't have any pagan idols. Really, do you celebrate Christmas? Well, yeah. Well, that's an idol of wood. That's an idol of wood. They put up a picture of Santa Claus. Santa Claus is from that picture of Santa Claus. He's a magic man. That's why the red suit and the pointy hat, that was what magicians wore. That was their outfit. Okay? That's from Europe. But they worship Santa Claus, and yet from wood carvings, they see the ancient god Mithras looks exactly like Santa Claus, holding a stag or a deer in his hand, Rudolph, in one arm, and holding the evergreen tree in the other arm, right from an ancient wood carving, in his magic hat, big white beard and everything. That's Santa Claus. That's where it came from. It's the false god Mithras. And people put this false god up in pictures and in hangings and everything on their houses. It's all in worship of the false god Mithras, which is another name, of course, for Satan. Satan himself. Satan is that false god Mithras, Tammuz, Zeus. Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. So if you're listening to this video, you're renewing your mind. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Ephesians 4, 17 and 18. Walk no longer as Gentiles walk, in the futility of their minds. Brethren, the church is walking just like the unsaved. And they're out there celebrating Christmas. Christmas is, in Europe, one of the reasons they didn't want it in the United States was it was a day of drunkenness and debauchery. That was okay with the Catholics. But everybody knew that's what it was. And when they fled Europe, they came here and they said, we don't want that ungodly day. We don't want that being observed here. America is the place for the church, for godliness, to escape the corruption. We don't want to bring it back. But they brought it back in the 1850s. Isn't that a shame? It's just a shame. Okay, I think I should stop there, and we'll pick up with the very next one. We'll continue this teaching. Lord bless.